So I thought it would be great to bring a couple of our high-achieving students here today, High Achiever 1, High Achiever 2, to talk about their experiences in classes, not just honors classes, but as a student in a non-honors course, what that experience is like for them, what they would like to see more of to continue to challenge their minds.
So if I ask the question, what are you really good at? You know, I get this litany of things.
Right.
And I just wonder if anyone could be good at all those things. And then I ask the question, what's the one thing you really want to do? And that's a very difficult question to address.
It is. It is.
But hasn't there been literature to show that people that are very good at multiple things often have a hard time finding a particular career path because they are talented in multiple directions? So I don't think that that's unique among high achievers, so to speak, as much as people that are just diversified in their talents.
I guess shouldn't you be encouraging using all of those, how they're good in all those different areas to then fuel that one passion? How can you use these different areas outside of this primary area, outside of science? How can you pull that into that area?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been to direct people that one particular thing, such as your career, will not balance you as a person. So you're going to follow a career path to follow one particular interest, but your personal hobbies are going to be the way that you get fulfillment in these other diversity of areas, and that's how you marry the two.
I think that's one thing that I've gotten out of honors is just being able to go ahead and take, okay, I'm interested in event planning, and I'm interested in leadership, and I'm interested in this, and this, but this is my major, and this is where I want to go with it. So how can I use my leadership and event planning skills, and how can I make it into a field where I want to work in higher education, like kind of student affairs kind of stuff. So how can I do that? And that's been one thing that's been really, really great, talking to a lot of my professors within the major, within my minors, and also within the honors, is definitely trying to integrate those things that I'm interested in, both in and out of the classroom, into what I want to do.
Right now, like, oh, my students have a discussion due today at 9. Which is on campus. Have you guys had that? Like,
I've had a couple of
those.
those.
Yeah,
I've had a
do you
couple.
like
Definitely.
that structure or not?
So my major is very, very hands-on. So a lot of our professors prefer not to have it online. They prefer a little bit better the face-to-face interaction. So we get more of like kind of classroom and participation attendance is more what it's geared towards. Other classes that I've have had the discussion online, where we have a discussion due every Friday, which also still works. It's just a different way of doing that.
I guess why I brought it up is, do you think that there's any difference between having to report on your fellow classmates versus being asked to show your work essentially and show that you're contributing in some way? Like he does that to check essentially to make sure that we're contributing an answer before we're in the team, and maybe I don't speak, but my answer, it showed that I did. Is that better or worse than having to write out, well, Joe didn't do anything this week, and something like that? Do you think that there's any difference?
I think that really shifts the accountability, right? Because then it's on you to say that this other person is not doing their job versus this person literally just being accountable for himself.
Was essentially an IRAT, which is an individual readiness assessment test. So you're checking that the individual person is ready to work together in the group activity, that they've done their background reading, that they're ready to work. The second thing, which they're measuring with the survey of, evaluating their peers, is what actually happened when you got to that group. Did you pull your own weight in the discussion and the final product? So I think there's both forms of accountability that are necessary.
Yeah. And that's definitely something to look into, is doing both. I know it can be difficult sometimes just to kind of have a little bit more of the individual, because so many of our classes that are doing group work are so focused on making you work in teams and groups. They're not so much making sure that you have your part, because you're not always going to have that. Once you get out into the workforce or the real world, you're not always going to have everything known before you go in and work with the group. So I think for us, the group work is a little bit more of preparation for the real world, especially with family and community sciences because we're the helping people major. We're going to go out there into the field and something's going to pop up literally while we're in the meeting working with people. So that's our major focus, is not necessarily working to make sure that the individual is accountable for it, but that the group can work with each other to make everything kind of happen.
That like you would function better in a group if it wasn't up to you to evaluate your group members? Or do you find that that's valuable to you so that you can, you know, sort of, not necessarily report on them, but sort of prove who was doing the real work once the product is done? Because sometimes you have the situations where people report separately and then you discuss it and come up with one culminating idea, and other time it's a product that you end up with that maybe 2 out of 5 people worked on. And then it's up to you to inform the instructor that those 3 people really didn't do much.
Yeah, I've had both ways in classes before. I've had some where professors are like, this is your group. That's it. Like, I don't want to know who's doing the work. I don't want to know anything like that. So they put literally, like, you're accountable for going in and saying, hey, look, I'm literally the only person showing up in class every single day for the past 4 weeks. And then you want us to do the group work. I'm not going to put the other 3 people's names on this paper because I'm the only one that's showing up in class.
Gotcha.
So I think that puts the accountability a little bit more on us, rather than having, okay, did they really pull their weight? Did they show up to class? Did they do this?
I've also had instances where you'll have an individual grade and a group grade. So like I'm right in my class right now, we're doing, like, we're all individually responsible for writing our own paper, but then we're all in the same group, and then we have to like subdivide and argue against, but like each person gets their own grade, but then the group collectively in the way that they operate gets their grade too. So you essentially get evaluated twice.
All your content is consumed asynchronously on your own, and then you come together in groups and you have to do some activity to assess the group, and you're going to evaluate that. However, my concern is what would be your recommendation to faculty or instructional design people to individualize the instruction to keep you engaged, because it might not be the level of assessment or it may be a quiz or something, and you want something much more dynamic or higher level. So, but you're only given a certain amount of class time, and you have to show what you know, but you've already handled that, and other people are struggling with that level of content, but you want a higher level of learning. And how would you, in a large enrollment class, for example, what would be, like, if you could say to a fact, like, how do you think as a student that the instruction could be individualized more to your level? Within the time constraints of, many times you want to think about the higher and lower and all levels of learning, but you can't quite do it because of the structural elements. So maybe it's shortchanging your experience there. Do you have students that feel that struggle? And
I would say one of the biggest ones we hear about these days is the common humanities course that every first-year student has to take. What is the good life? Our students come in, and once you get past the it's required part, one of the biggest issues our students say is we can't really discuss things in depth like we would like to. We want to sit in our discussion section and really dive deep into this topic, but because half the class hasn't even read, we can't do that, and so that experience has not been positive.
In particular, the point you're making about resilience is so true. These, as you well can imagine, the students that enter the medical school have excelled all their life. They've never stumbled. A few of them have, but the ones who haven't, they come to med school, and then that's where they experience it for the first time, because now they're in a room of 135 students who are just as smart as they are, if not smarter. And so without having that resilience behind them, what happens is that when they get that first B or whatever the case may be, they don't know how to deal with it emotionally, because they've never had to learn how to do that before. And so meanwhile, I have to learn it now, and I have to learn it while the class is still moving forward. I mean, you know, if you have like 7 lectures a week, or however many you have during undergrad, they have that many in one day. So the train moves quickly. So at any rate, the reason I wanted to speak up is because this morning I'm hearing you guys talk about, oh my gosh, I got that first B, and I'm told that no, it's over, you know, don't even bother applying. That's not true. I met with a pre-med student this morning, And there's a lot of falsehoods, myths that are out there that I think really need to be cleared up.
Yeah.
So if, I want to offer myself, I'm happy to come talk to the student, your honor students, and there's a cadre of us down there that would love to clear up some of these myths.
We would welcome that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
So students are encouraged, and I think what was disheartening about the student I met with this morning is that sometimes when students recognize that there are deficiencies in their record about their application, they come up with their own deduction of what they need to do. And they don't consult anyone, particularly anyone who's in the med school, about that. So my best advice I have for all of you is to pass the word along that go consult someone in the professional or graduate school that you are considering to make sure that what you think is true is actually true. And I don't mean any disrespect to undergraduate advisor, they're wonderful people, but they don't sit on the committee that makes the decisions, and really that's where you need to get that advice from. In addition to their advice, keep going and make sure you're getting accurate information.
So what would you advise a pre-med student that's the most important thing for them to have on their record when they apply?
They need to really be able to explain why they want to be a physician. Not just, I want to help people. I could be a hairstylist and help people. Okay? So why do you want to help people as in medicine? And then what experiences in your life have led to that? What happened? What were you doing? What did you observe that led you to that conclusion?
We definitely encourage that, and when even just talking about involvement, folks are so focused on, I must be one of these 5 big ambassador type groups or what have you. And I encourage folks to look at those smaller organizations in their department, especially if they want to go on to graduate school, because there'll be opportunities to meet with faculty. The faculty members are more likely to know them if they're really involved in the department organizations. So that's definitely one area where we emphasize that. And I'm always telling students to go go talk to their faculty members about what they're interested in doing. Where have their alums gone on to graduate or professional school? What types of career opportunities do they see? Can they, if they're involved with undergraduate research, to go out there and present that at professional conferences so that they can see what that's like.